Welcome to this explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're here today. We are unlocking the factory doors to tackle a fascinating, high-stakes topic that happens behind the scenes at manufacturing facilities all over the world. We're looking at exactly how a brand new product goes from being a risky test concept to a massive factory run without failing. Okay, let's dive right in. So imagine you're launching a new product. The design, perfect. The marketing, ready to go. But how do factories actually ensure that the very first physical batch isn't just a total disaster? Well, the secret is a highly strict, heavily monitored probationary period. Think of it like putting training wheels on a multi-million-dollar manufacturing line. It requires incredible coordination and literally zero room for error. To see exactly how this works, we're going to follow a hypothetical product sequentially through our agenda. First, the transition challenge. 2, defining initial supply control. 3, kicking off production. 4, the quality checkpoint. 5, storage and dispatch. And finally 6, the handover to mass production. All right, kicking things off with section 1, the transition challenge, moving from prototype to mass production. The stakes during this transition phase are just incredibly high. A single mistake here doesn't just ruin a few prototypes. It can scrap thousands of items and completely torch a customer relationship. That's exactly why factories rely on a massive, complex standard operating procedure, or SOP, for initial supply control. It's essentially a comprehensive map that dictates the whole shebang. It charts every single step, every responsibility, and every form from the absolute start of production all the way to mass scale. No guesswork allowed. Moving to section 2. Defining initial supply control, setting the rules and scope. Before a single machine is even turned on, we have to lay down the ground rules for this crucial version 1.0 phase. And the bedrock of this whole system is something called the initial part. According to the SOP, an initial part is the very first sample from new product development trials. Or it could be a product undergoing corrections, or even one being manufactured in a brand new plant location. But here is the key. These aren't just conceptual batches. They are physically identified with a tag, stating exactly why they are an initial product. They're stored totally separately, and they're prepped to exact customer standards. Now, what's super interesting is that this probationary timeframe is not a one-size-fits-all rule. If you're dealing with completely new product development, an NPD, the initial supply control period lasts for 3 months, or 3 supplies, whichever comes later. But say you're just making a correction or moving an existing product to a new plant, that period is way shorter, just 1 month or 1 supply. It's basically a sliding scale of risk, which just makes perfect sense. Let's jump to section 3, kicking off production. The journey begins on the shop floor. We can actually trace this chronological day-in-the-life journey starting the absolute second a customer order drops. Step 1, the team gets the order and the production request from the sales team at the head office. But wait, they don't just quietly start making stuff. Step 2 is a formal, loud announcement on the shop floor that initial production is kicking off, and top management is explicitly informed. Once everyone is on high alert, step 3 happens, receiving the daily production plan. It's this fast-paced, administrative domino effect. And you might be wondering who is actually leading the charge during this crazy setup. Well, that massive responsibility rests squarely on the shoulders of the production and R&D heads. They are the ones steering these initial activities, making absolutely sure nothing slips through the cracks before those machines fire up. To actually get the ball rolling, the production and quality assurance heads have to get their paperwork flawless. They use very specific internal documents. They prep the batch formulation using the batch formulation sheet, internally called FPRD-09, and they align everything with the daily production plan known as FPRD-6. These aren't just arbitrary files, guys. These are the literal blueprints that give the factory floor the green light to start the manufacturing activity. On to section 4, the quality checkpoint, the critical pass/fail decision. This is where the tension really ramps up. This is the rigorous inspection bottleneck that literally determines if a product survives. Following the SOP flowchart, the team finally manufactures the product. But right after it rolls off the line, bam, everything pauses. The quality head steps in to run in-process and final inspections based on specially defined controls. They're scrutinizing this initial product to answer one massive question: does it meet customer requirements? It's a gigantic yes or no decision that dictates everything that happens next. The inherent drama here is all about how the path diverges based on that one evaluation. If the answer is yes, awesome. The material is moved to a designated, totally separate area on the production floor, specifically for initial supply control. But if the answer is no, the whole batch stops dead in its tracks. The team has to go back, revise the formulation, and figure out exactly what went wrong. Let's actually look a little closer at that NO path, because it is definitely not just a casual do-over. If a product fails, the production and QC heads have to meticulously analyze and document every single defect using specific forms. We're talking the trouble history and defect analysis sheet, that's FQAC20, and the Plan Do Check Act sheet, FQAC21. Only after they have rigorously documented what went wrong can they revise the formulation and loop all the way back to manufacture it again. Moving to Section 5, Storage and Dispatch, handling the approved version 1.0. Now let's say our product passed that rigorous test and we are cruising down the yes path. The final logistics kick into gear. First up, the production and quality assurance heads prepare the final inspection reports to match the customer's exact requirements. Then, the store in charge physically moves the material to a separate storage area, and it absolutely must have an initial supply control tag on it. Finally, the approved initial product is successfully dispatched to the customer. I really want to emphasize just how crucial this physical segregation is. Form FQAC19 and that physical initial supply control tag are non-negotiable. Mandatory. This isn't just about a factory trying to be organized. It is the ultimate safeguard. It physically guarantees that these untested, newly launched products will never, ever accidentally get mixed up with standard mass-market goods sitting in the warehouse. And finally, Section 6, handover to mass production, graduating from the probationary period. This is the big moment. Our product is finally graduating from its probation. As we hit the end of the SOP flowchart, we reach the termination phase. Once the initial product has survived this entire gauntlet, whether that means passing the 3-month mark for a totally new product or the 1-month mark for a relocation, and it complies with all termination requirements, it is officially handed over to the mass production team. The training wheels finally come off, and standard, everyday manufacturing can officially begin. It really changes how you look at the everyday items we buy, doesn't it? Every single form, every colored tag, every separated storage area, they all exist to protect us, the consumers, from a factory's learning curve. So, next time you buy a newly launched product fresh off the shelf, I want you to ask yourself, will you spot the invisible initial supply control protocols that guaranteed its quality? Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.